The Celebration Bowl is only a couple of days away. We looked at FAMU, but who is the Howard Bison X Factor? Oh, yeah, it's Locked On HBCU. Play my music.
You are Locked On HBCU, your daily podcast covering HBCU sports. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's going on, family? Welcome back to another episode of the Locked On HBCU podcast, your number one daily one-stop shop for everything HBCU athletics, Monday through Friday, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And I, of course, am Darian Gray, a.k.a. the South Texas Southern alum and former TSU Herald sports editor and current contributing writer at USA Today's Saints Wire. Thank you for going on this journey with me. Make it Locked On HBCU, your first listen of the day, every day. And remember, just because the mic cuts off doesn't mean that the journey's over. Just means it's time to follow me on Twitter at South Exclusives. Starts with an S and ends with an S. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more right now. New customers will get $150 back in bonus bets with any winning $5 money line bet. That's $150 back if your team wins. Visit FanDuel.com/locked on to get started. We wrap up today's episode with Southern. They found their new head coach. Not quite sure I can call him new. They just ripped the interim tag off of Coach Graves, but new nonetheless. And prior to that, we'll be looking at why the Celebration Bowl is not MEAC versus MEAC. It's MEAC versus SWAC like it's always been. Let's go ahead and dispel this notion that the MEAC wins either way. But before any of that, let's highlight the Howard X Factor. And I've racked my brain for the last couple of days trying to figure out what I was going to say Howard's X Factor was, who I was going to say Howard's X Factor was. When it came to FAMU, I looked at their running game, and mostly Terrell Jennings, but their running game. I'll put that right here so you can see it connected to. But as I racked my brain to try to find who it was for Howard, I just kept coming back to the team's X Factor. Not who is it going to be the X Factor in this game, but the team has had an X Factor all year long named Kasey Hawthorne. His ability to run, pass, and catch makes him an immediate X Factor. And I didn't want to do it because it just felt almost a little too obvious, but this is the Super Bowl. Why not bring up the obvious? Why not bring up the thing that will not alter the game? Because they do this a lot. That's the difference between Kasey Hawthorne and then the running game of FAMU. It's not just one person. When it comes to Hawthorne, I'm just speaking on Hawthorne. FAMU's running game could be a variety of people. But then also, Hawthorne is always a heavy part of the Howard offense. It's just what he does, right? And I'll go through the distribution of his usage and then also his efficiency at the end of the segment. But for me, if I'm Howard, I'm looking at how FAMU struggled with Chris Herron. See, the threat of the run is greater, or the threat of the pass is greater with Herron, but I couldn't help but imagine, all right, I've seen the athleticism of Herron give FAMU some problems at the quarterback position. If I put Kasey Hawthorne back there, could I generate the same issues? And it could disappear with the threat of the pass, right? Because you're not looking at Hawthorne to step back, do a 3-step drop and air you out. You're not looking at that. So probably when I see Hawthorne, the first thing I'm thinking about is his ability to run. But maybe you use him as a decoy in that way because he's so dynamic and you've seen him do so many things. It's not that he's great at everything, and really, he's a really good runner and a really good pass catcher, but he doesn't throw the ball as much, which is what we'll get to in a little bit. But you've seen him do it. So the threat of him doing everything is always alive. So when he's in that backfield, he could throw the ball. But he could run it. And if you're leaning towards him running it, maybe that's when I throw it. So it's almost like when it's Hawthorne, you got to try to take something away. And if you know, as a Howard offensive coordinator, as a Howard offensive player, that they're going to try to take away his legs, maybe this is the time that you set him up for a pass because you know what they're gearing up for. Now, it's a chess match. FAMU's a really good defense. If they're playing it the right way, they're playing for the run with their front seven while telling their back end to stay disciplined. But it's all about a chess match. I got to watch you do it the right way. You know, I can't just assume, all right, you're great, so that ain't going to work. No, you got to show me, and I'm only going to do it 1 or 2 times. I'm going to come in, I'm going to set him up, running the ball about 2 or 3 times, 3, 4 times. And once I see how you're playing the run, and once I get you to believe that he's just going to run the ball, now I get to step back and pass. So it's different things. But let's look at this distribution. So he's attempted 2 passes. He's completed both of them for the record, but he's attempted 2 passes, 21 rushes, and 35 receptions. So he's a receiver. That's the thing. He's not a jack of all trades in the sense that I would describe Taysom Hill, where I almost call Taysom Hill an athlete. He's technically a tight end, and if you look at his snap distribution, he probably does line up at tight end more than anywhere else. But to me, he's a real football player. When I see Hawthorne, I see a wide receiver who does other things. That's the difference, right? And that's in no way a slight. It's just a different type of player. 35 receptions to 21 rushes. It's kind of even. It's kind of even, right? You have 14 more receptions to rushes, but when you're looking at somebody who is primarily a wide receiver, the distribution being that close to me is nearly even, or basically even. Then you have yardage, 12 yards passing. Once again, very light. There is a touchdown in there, but very light. 179 yards rushing, and then 504 yards receiving. When you look at his usage, he has the most receptions, then rushing yards. Or excuse me. When you look at his usage, he has receptions, rushes, and then very little passes. That's reflected in his yardage. Kasey Hawthorne is the leading receiver on the Howard Bison. He's the second leading receiver in the MEAC. But if I were to boil down the threat of Kasey to just his ability to catch the ball, I would be minimizing him. It's his versatility, his ability to, on rare occasions, throw the ball, on frequent occasions, run the ball, and then also be a wide receiver primarily. That versatility, his ability to attack you in 3 different ways, that's what makes him the X factor. That's what makes him the X factor. Because if I just said Kasey Hawthorne has 35 receptions for 504 yards, he's a leading receiver on the Howard Bison, of course he would be a threat. But when I add in those 21 rushes for 179 yards, when I add in those simply just 2 throws for only 12 yards and a touchdown, it's the fact that he can attack you in so many ways. He's not only the X factor for this game, he's the X factor for Howard. So in the most important game of the year, why wouldn't I make him the X factor on today's episode? Now, as we move forward, it's not MEAC versus MEAC. Let's cut that out. Let's cut it out. It's MEAC versus SWAC. You see this banner behind me? I'm SWAC all the way through, and I have to dispel some of these notions. I've been hearing the whispers. I know what you're saying, and it's not true. The MEAC can lose this game because Howard can lose this game. And let's look at exactly what this notion is I'm talking about as we continue with Locked On HBCU. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel, and FanDuel is the official sportsbook of the Locked On Podcast Network. I don't know if you can tell, but I have this beautiful Christmas sweater on. It's a Pelican Christmas sweater. I'm very happy about it. I do love this. I don't know who we got tonight, but I know we just knocked off. Who was it? Who did we knock off? Was it Kings? Yeah, I think we just knocked off the Kings. So, no, it was the Timberwolves. It was the Timberwolves without Ant. But if you have some money on that, put on FanDuel. I think that Zion's going to go on a little tear. People have been talking about his weight. All right, well, he's about to go ahead and drop a couple of big games. We just saw him drop his season high against the Timberwolves after everybody was talking about his weight. I would say go put some money on Zion Williamson because Freaky Z about to turn up. It's going to get real nasty. All right, so go to FanDuel.com/lockedon. That is FanDuel.com/lockedon. And if you do a $5 money line bet and you're new to FanDuel, you get $150 back in bonus bets. So if you know what you're talking about, you'd be a winner times 2. As we continue rolling on today's episode of Locked On HBCU, I appreciate you for making this your first listen of the day every day. And remember, Locked On Sports Today is a 24/7 podcast stream, the first of its kind. You'll never see anything like this, or you won't see anything like this, but I know that them folks is going to get to copying soon, so you eventually will. But we are the first to do a 24/7 live stream. Now, I want to look at one of these notions. All right. I want to look at the MEAC versus MEAC claims when it's Celebration Bowl. I got to fight back, right? I got to fight back because it's funny to me that I was already waiting on this. It's Celebration Bowl week. I didn't want to touch on this a little too early. I didn't want to touch on this last week. I wanted to keep a lot of my Celebration Bowl topics that I had already pre-thought of until this week. I just felt like it was right. Give a little bit of sprinkle of it last week, but this is the week I really wanted to look at it. For example, I've been thinking about FAMU and their ability to run the ball for about a month. I think I've been thinking about that. I've been thinking about that since before the last game of the season. So I've been thinking about that for a while, but I held off. I was a little bit scared that they might end up getting upset in the SWAC championship game, and now I can't talk about it, but I decided to gamble a little bit, and I ended up winning, right? Always bet on black, and I did that. So this was one of the topics that I wanted to hold off on. And ironically, an old clip, I think it's just like a week old or whatever, but Buddy Pugh was on HBCU Nightly, friend of the show, platform name, everything is all coincide. HBCU Nightly, right? Joshua Sims Sr. He was on there and he made a comment, and this clip resurfaced this week. And it was talking about how FAMU is MEAC. They always gonna be MEAC. And I've heard this from a lot of people, but hearing it from Buddy, it hurt because I know how much credibility Buddy has. And I don't knock anybody's credibility for saying this, but I got to go against the old ball coach on this one, y'all. I got to go against the old ball coach. FAMU ain't MEAC no more. They not MEAC anymore, y'all. And listen, I'm a SWAC guy through and through, so I'm going to beat this table for it. They not MEAC no more. Now, this will be a different situation if the first year in the SWAC, FAMU came in and they were the Celebration Bowl representatives. I will not take away what FAMU did in the SWAC. I won't sit here and say they had to get adjusted to the conference. That didn't happen. FAMU has been one of the best teams in the SWAC since entering the SWAC. I think that'll be just revisionist history if I acted like their inability to get to the Celebration Bowl the first 2 years meant that they had to get adjusted to the conference. They lost one game in the SWAC. They were dominant in the SWAC. They just couldn't beat JSU in 2021 and 2022. That's it. In 2023, they were able to beat Jackson State, and they dominated just like they did prior to it, right? But it's been 3 years. Had they came in that first year and made it to the Celebration Bowl, then it would look like the SWAC had to go get some MEAC reinforcements to be able to win another one. Because it's been a while since Grambling's won. The MEAC does have a stranglehold on this event. Like, we just got to be real about it. But we didn't just go run to the MEAC and need reinforcements. Now, here's the thing. FAMU will always be MEAC in the same way that the Staples Center will always be the Staples Center. And for some reason, or for some people who are a little bit older, the Forum will always be the Forum. You just get acclimated to things. This is the way that things have been forever. I will not erase decades of history, but FAMU's not MEAC anymore. Not only that, I'm not just speaking in designation. When you look at the majority of their roster, these ain't MEAC products. These aren't even guys who played their freshman year in the MEAC. You have some, but the main contributors, they're not MEAC guys. A lot of these guys transferred in. Riley, Shareed, Moose, Major, Bowler. Like, these guys transferred in. So that's what I'm saying. It's not. And then when you go to leadership, because I think he tried to act like Willie was a MEAC guy. Nah. Willie's a SWAC guy. Offensive coordinator, running backs coach, Alcorn. Head coach, Prairie View for 3 seasons. He's been the FAMU coach for 5 seasons. 2 of those were in the MEAC. 3 of those were in the SWAC. Of his head coaching years, 6 of his 8 coaching seasons as a head coach have been in the SWAC. He spent more time in the SWAC as a FAMU coach than he spent at a FAMU coach in the MEAC. From the leadership, This is a SWAC guy. Come on, y'all. I understand that he applied to FAMU and some restrictions and whatnot. He's not a MEAC guy. He didn't play there. He might be from Tallahassee, but he ain't. Or where he from in Florida? Is he from Tallahassee? He's from Florida, but he's not a MEAC guy. You got to understand that. So don't hit me with that. This is MEAC versus MEAC. FAMU has a long history. And you know what? It takes more than 3 years to be able to erase it. I will be honest about that. But at the same time, when you look at the majority of these guys, it's not as if they were born and bred in the MEAC, came over to the SWAC, and then won a Celebration Bowl. Because let's be honest about it. When it comes to that MEAC talk, see, now they've been gone long enough where you'll say it's MEAC versus MEAC because you feel like you can't win or you can't lose. But at FAMU came over and got into the Celebration Bowl immediately, you know what the conversation would have been. They had to run to the SWAC in order to do it. No matter how FAMU made it to the Celebration Bowl, it was always going to be about MEAC supremacy for a lot of people. I'm not letting y'all do that. This is MEAC versus SWAC. Now, I ain't got no dog in the race. I'm not one of those people just going to root for the SWAC no matter what. But let's not act like the MEAC can't lose the Celebration Bowl. They can. And it's only, you know how it happens? Howard loses because they're the only MEAC team here. Now, as we move forward, let's keep it in the SWAC. You know what I'm saying? I should go ask Eddie Robinson if FAMU is SWAC, right? But one team I don't have to question that they're SWAC, and that's the Southern Jaguars, because why I gotta explain it? They're SWAC. I was about to say because I'm trying to find a reason. No, they SWAC, born and bred, right? But the Southern Jaguars have a quote unquote new head coach, but in reality, they really just stripped the interim tag off Terrance Graves. So I don't know if we can really consider that new, but they do have a coach. And we'll look at that as we continue with Locked On HBCU. Today's episode is brought to you by LinkedIn, and LinkedIn Jobs is perfect for all small business owners. Now, I understand that as a small business owner, you're juggling a lot of work. And you're probably wearing multiple hats. You might be an owner. You might be a worker. You might have to work in a couple of departments. You might have a couple of people who have to work in a couple of departments. You're a small business owner. You're a small business. But you can get the right fits for you. You can get the right employees, the right people, the right team. Because over 1 billion people are on LinkedIn Jobs. It's simple. All you have to do is go to linkedin.com/lockedoncollege. That's linkedin.com/lockedoncollege. And you can go reach out with those people. You have the ability to set up your job description, edit it to your liking so that you know and they know exactly what to expect. You can vet these people, get the right people in faster because you have so many things going on. It can be hard to have a whole hiring and interview session, everything. Just go on LinkedIn. Let's go on linkedin.com/lockedoncollege. It's very simple. That's linkedin.com/lockedoncollege. As we're wrapping up today's episode of Locked On HBCU, I appreciate you for making this your first listen of the day, every day, making it all the way to segment 3. And I thank you 2 times for that. Thank you. Thank you. Now, the Southern Jaguars have officially hired a head football coach. And I'll say it that way because it's not new. It's Terrance Graves. This was the interim head coach. Now, he's been the interim coach for Grambling before. He's been the interim head coach for Southern, and both were in the Bayou Classic. And if I'm not mistaken, I think he's won both of those. So as long as Southern has Graves, it seems like they're going to be all right in the Bayou Classic. At the end of the year, they'll be okay in that game. But I thought that this was interesting because it's not who I expected, but it's what I expected. I didn't expect Southern to make a splash. I just didn't. I didn't expect Southern to come out and I don't want to say this. Let's take the Ray Lewis out of it, right? Because I think we came on here and we spoke about Ray Lewis connected to Southern, and I didn't want it to seem as if I always say I didn't want it to seem as if, but I don't think it came off this way, right? This is me. Let me give you a quick little peep into my psyche. So a lot of times I don't think things come off a certain way, but I'm a super overthinker. So I'm like, oh, you could have took it that way. You could have took it that way. You could have took it this way, right? But I meant it this way right here. And I thought it was pretty clear. And sometimes I don't clarify because I think things be clear. But overall, Ray Lewis was never connected to Southern by any reliable source. This was just fanfare. And I use that fanfare to make a greater point about quote unquote celebrity coaches, right? But anywho, this is about the type of hire I expected. Nothing splashy, nothing flashy, connected to the program in a way. And when you look at what AD Banks said, yeah, makes sense. He said some are eager to potential hires. Some are eager. Some guys are interested, but want to be paid like you're at a Power 5 program. And then they changed their tune. The better candidates are interested in the job for the job, not just the pay. Even though our pay is low, they still want to be a coach at Southern. Excuse me, no disrespect. They still want to be the coach at Southern. People who are really interested recruit you the most. We want someone who will work the job like it's the best on planet Earth. To a certain degree, there's some validity in that. Now, I believe the pay does have to add up. But it also told me you're probably not going to get maybe who you initially thought was going to be your guy, your top guy. Because I would think that your top guys are probably the ones who are asking for the most money. I could be wrong in that, but I would assume that is the case. So I didn't think that they were going to get the first guy that they looked at, but they were going to get a guy who checked all of their boxes. And the guy who checked all of their boxes was going to be somebody who was close to the program, someone who loved the program. And I think sometimes I think that asking somebody to do something for the love of it is a very difficult premise at times. So that's why you get people who are closely connected, because people who aren't closely connected, they're not doing it for the love of whatever. I'm not asking somebody to do it for the love of whatever. Now, my finances say I got to do it. I got to do it, right? Because I can't pay the Power 5 rate. And for some guys, he might look, I'm not going to come from being an assistant coach at wherever I'm at to being the head coach at Southern and taking a pay cut. I'm not doing that. All right, cool, whatever, right? But I think that just cut off a portion of their hires. Like I'm hearing them talk about Mickey Joseph, right? I'm hearing about some of the guys who have a little bit bigger cachet. Can't get that on the budget. Can't get that. You want them to just love it. I don't all the way agree with this statement, but I agree with it to a certain degree. I would love to have somebody who loves the job for the job too. Just sometimes, I don't know. I'll leave it alone because I know there's a reason the pay is lower. So I can't say things like cheap, but it's like if you just can't afford it, it just kind of feels like an excuse. It just feels like something you're throwing out there to not make it seem like, all right, we just couldn't afford the guy. That's what it sounds like to me, right? It's not about being cheap because you really don't have it. But if you ain't got it, you just ain't got it. But let's not sit here and act like you don't want those guys. No, you just ain't got it. If you had it, you probably hired them. That's my personal opinion on it. But we'll see. I don't think that the ideal guy at the beginning necessarily equates to the guy you need. Maybe the person who loves the program is able to dive in and recruit better. Maybe the guy who loves the program does have a little bit more loyalty, and maybe they have more loyalty to them. Twofold. When you know that this guy loves the program, I'm going to make sure we can do everything to get you here, right? So that just goes both ways, man. But overall, Terrance Graves is the guy I'm happy because he's been in this spot as an interim head coach and been passed up before. So I'm very excited to see him get this opportunity. And I liked him from the interview that he had at the when he was named the interim head coach. I liked him then. I'll see. He has a introductory press conference for his official head coaching tomorrow at 11 a.m. So I don't know if this will be out by then because I got some things to do tonight and tomorrow. So I don't know if it'll be out, but hopefully it is. But yeah, so I appreciate you for making this your first listen of the day every day. Sincerely, thank you. Tomorrow I got Coach G coming back on. So, I'm excited about this. I should have wore a sweater then because he probably would have made fun of me. But anywho, Maybe I'll wear it. I'm not gonna wear it again. But anyway, I appreciate you making this your first listen of the day every day. I'm finna get to rambling. When I'm on the phone with my friends, I gotta tell them like, all right, man, I just gotta hang up now because you know how I'm gonna get, and I'm getting to that point. I want to talk to you forever. But in the meantime, in between time, because I can't do that. Till next time we're here to the family. Take care. Stay blessed. Peace.